Hello, everyone. My name is Andrea Evans, and my co-host Ashley Deadwyler-Jones and I would like to welcome you to this amazing series, HBCU Excellence. And today, we have our Morehouse brother here, Dr. Robert Gore, and we are so excited to have him here because when he's not in the emergency room saving lives, he's on CNN as a hero. Dr. Rob Gore, you are our hero because you're our Morehouse brother. Welcome to this interview, and please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thanks for having me. It's good to see you guys. I'm an emergency physician in Brooklyn, New York, and Morehouse class in 1998. And in addition to just practicing in the ER at SUNY Downstate and Kings County Medical Center, both in Brooklyn, New York, I am the founder and the executive director of a program called KAVI, which is the Kings Against Violence Initiative. And KAVI is a hospital, school, and community-based violence intervention program that is focusing on reframing this entire conversation we have around trauma and violence.
Awesome. That's a mouthful.
It's a lot, but
community, Rob. So Rob, considering all the wonderful things that you've done, can you tell us a little bit about your journey to Morehouse? What led you to choose Morehouse, such an excellent institution, and it groomed you to be the man that you are today?
I like how you say that, excellent institution, and said with the air that only a Spelmanite or a Morehouse man could articulate. But Morehouse, I knew I wanted to go to Morehouse by the time I was 16. I knew I was actually, I couldn't say I knew I was going to go to an HBCU. I looked at a lot of different schools, but like some of my earliest college tours were to Howard University. And even in high school, I spent time in Texas. I went to Prairie View A&M for a summer. Morehouse was on the radar because my older cousin went there. As a matter of fact, his two sons are at Morehouse right now, and his daughter is at Spelman. And so there was a push for me to go there, but I really didn't have an interest in going to school with all dudes. And when I went to graduation, it was my eyes got really opened up. I had never seen anything like graduation, but it wasn't just the pomp and the circumstance and the drummers and just the festiveness of it. Before I got down there a few days before graduation, and some of his classmates who were graduated or were graduating said, look, if you come to Morehouse, we're going to expect you to become a leader. And I was like, wow. I was like, this is expectation. It wasn't like, well, if you decide to. It said, we expect you to become a leader. And they said, if you are going to come here, there's some books that we need you to read just to kind of get you on that journey. So they bought, I think I had to read Up From Slavery. I read The Souls of Black Folk. There was another book that they gave me, but I was 16 years old, and I'm thinking, this is their last week of college. And I know when we did our last week of college, I was kicking it. I studied a whole lot when I was in school, so I didn't kick it too much. But that last week, I kicked it hard with the folks. And these dudes took me to the Shrine of the Black Madonna bookstore. And I'm like, wow, they wanted to invest in me. Mm-hmm. And I never forgot that. But also, there was some sister who was in a convertible that waved at me in the Wendy's parking lot. And she had Spelman plates. And, well, I'm from Brooklyn. So none of my friends had cars. I had never seen a woman my age and my age range who was even in a convertible. That was something that was only on TV. And then she spoke to me. So I was like, that's a wrap. I was like, I got to come to the South because this stuff doesn't happen in Brooklyn. I love New York women. And there's a special grit and tenacity that they have. But I wasn't used to Southern hospitality. I wasn't used to people speaking to me. But all those things, I say some of that stuff jokingly and completely serious. But a lot of that stuff wound up leading me to come down to Morehouse. I knew I wanted to be a part of the legacy. I knew I wanted to be a leader. And what better place to go than a place that was just going to help cultivate that.
I love that because it sounds like Morehouse was the complete package for you. You had all the beautiful women at Spelman, the brains, and that expectation of excellence. So let's talk about that because you are a leader. So you exceeded the expectation of a Morehouse man, and congratulations on everything you've done. But if you could go back to college, just think about back in the day, everybody had one thing that happened to them in college that they remember that shaped them into the person that they are. So what is that one thing that happened to you?
That one thing that if I can just pinpoint one, Dean Blocker. So many people who are a little bit older may know who Dean Blocker was. He was the pre-medical dean, and he also taught the G-Bio lab. And he used to say this all the time. He would tell us, what you say you are now becoming. And he would keep repeating that over and over again. So it kind of became this mantra, but he really wanted us to, speak what we were becoming. He wanted us to focus. He said, you want to be these doctors, you want to be these lawyers, you want to be these leaders in the community and abroad and all over. So you have to kind of speak this stuff into existence, but you also had to do the work. And, Dean Blocker was a major force that was responsible for helping get me to medical school. And, we miss him, but his legacy does live on. But, I never forgot that. I always wanted to make sure that we help put other people in those positions to be able to do the same. And I quote Dean Blocker probably every week, sometimes the profanity, sometimes the words of wisdom. But I always knew that the professors that we had our best interest in mind. But it all kind of comes back to that one saying, what you say you are now becoming.
Right. Well, Rob, coming into Morehouse, deciding that, did you know, I guess, first that you wanted to be a doctor coming into Morehouse? And if so, how was it for you academically? Was it extremely challenging? Was it amazing support systems around you, not just in the classroom, but with your brothers? Talk to me about that experience.
So I when I entered Morehouse, fall of '94, or I guess August of '94, I knew I was going to be a doc. I was biology pre-med, but early on, like I'd explored all sorts of other different fields. I went to Pratt University throughout middle school and high school, and even spent time down at Prairie View A&M in their summer program. So I was really looking into architecture and engineering. But after that summer at PV, no disrespect, Andrea, but after that summer at PV, I realized that engineering probably wasn't the field for me. I liked the design aspect of it, but I kind of thought I needed a little bit more personal contact and connection. Not to say that engineers don't have that, because your entire crew has definitely proven me wrong in that respect. But I had already started thinking about medicine and, being a leader in healthcare. I had a mentor, a guy by the name of Answorth Allen, or Dr. Answorth Allen. He's a Black orthopedic surgeon in New York City, and he had just finished residency. And I happened to go see this doc because I had screwed up my knee and I had screwed up my ankle. I didn't know he was going to be Black. And, I'd already, started looking at medicine and healthcare as possibilities. And he said, yo, you want to make this happen? He said, we're going to get you to medical school. And I never forgot that. So at that point, getting to Morehouse, I already knew what I wanted to do. And Morehouse, the journey wasn't easy, but I did well in high school and I pushed myself in every possible way. And Morehouse was no exception to that. I think, anytime you enter a new space and you're around new people and then new ways of thinking and new ways of learning, there's always a curve. And, just through this process of experimentation, but more importantly, this process in which we have support was something that was transformative. To be around a bunch of other guys and women from Morehouse, from Clark Atlanta, from Spelman, from Morris Brown, who were all in the AUC, making sure that they became the best persons that they could potentially be. I bought into that entire mystique, and I used every minute of it to make sure I got to where I wanted to be. I wound up going after I finished Morehouse. I was lucky to get in SUNY Buffalo School of Medicine. I got into a few schools, but I didn't get into medical school until the day after graduation. So I was a little bit stuck. So, between that April-May period, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And one thing that stood out is that I talked to Dean Blocker. He said there's no reason why somebody who could get 100 on Dr. McCrae's biochem final shouldn't go to medical school. And then he was like, why didn't you tell me you didn't get into school right away? I was like, I don't know. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do when I graduate if I don't get in. He said, we're going to reach out and talk to some folks. But he said, what are you doing this summer? I was like, I don't have a job because I thought I was going to medical school. So Dean Blocker said, Gore, he said, Brother Gore, and he kind of shook his head like he usually did. And he said, there's this position I want you to have, and I want you to help run the summer science program. And there's a position called the chief of staff. So you're going to be responsible for 70 to 80 guys who are high school and pre-freshmen, and you're going to coordinate tutorial programs. You're going to help with logistics, and you're going to be the resident director for the 6-week period. And so, getting into medical school, then kind of doing that were a couple of things that really stood out. I realized that other people did the same for me, and making sure that I got to this place in this space. And so that was my turn to help pay it forward on a larger scale. And I've continued to do that kind of work since then.
Well, let's talk about that then. You have continued to pay it forward, and we've seen you receive numerous awards, including CNN Hero. So tell us, why were you selected as a CNN Hero?
So the CNN Hero Awards recognize people from around the world who are engaged in different elements of their community and change. They're, some are physicians, some are college students, some are tech people and engineers, but we were all nominated because of our work within the community. And I was nominated because of the work that we had been doing with our KAVI program, which works with young people who are at risk or who do engage in interpersonal violence and trauma. But like if you live in central Brooklyn, if you live in most of New York City, you're exposed to violence and trauma. And, I've always known, as a physician, and like from my time in Chicago, taking care of young people who have been affected by violence and trauma, and realizing that, I've been to places and studied in places where that's not the norm. And so how do we amplify this on a larger scale? And so kept looking at trauma both as a public health problem, or violence as a public health problem. And then, decided, we want to do more than just treat patients and treat victims. We want to do programming that's going to help be a lot more influential and preventative. And so we wound up launching our school-based program and then our hospital-based program and then our community-based programs, and really built a team of people to do that. And actually, there are people from the AUC that have been active participants in our program from a leadership point of view. Our COO, Jaquel Clemens, is a graduate of CAU, and we actually met while we were in school down in the AUC. At this point right now, KAVI's been doing programming since 2011. We were on paper since 2009, but programming since 2011. And I look and see where we've come since then. We actually have a few students who are at Morehouse right now. We have one student who's going into his sophomore year this coming August, and we have our first Morehouse soon-to-be graduate coming up later this month. And so, we've not only done the work in the community of Brooklyn at large, we're trying to make sure that the people that we're working with continue to do this type of work wherever they go to around the world.
Excellent. And you know what? The fact that you continue to give back despite all that you have on your plate. Honestly, when we discussed having this interview, I was like, is this a good time? Rob is in the middle of running, the show up in the emergency rooms in New York where, the COVID-19 virus is hitting us very, very hard. So thanks for participating today. But again, it just speaks volumes to how dedicated you are to giving back. Now, we all heard, how wonderful you've done academically and all the philanthropic things that you've done. But we want to know a little bit about you on your fun side. Talk to me about some of the things you did for fun and what you got yourself into at Morehouse that was more entertaining.
So you said what you did, because I was like, man, I'm kind of stuck in the Airbnb.
Back then.
COVID is a little bit different. Yeah. I was kind of a little bit of a geek. I was social, but antisocial. So I've been to the warehouse a couple of times. I've been to a lot of Lower Manly parties. I hung out with my friends and stuff like that. I ate a lot just because, but my first 2 years I ran track, so I didn't really have a whole lot of time being a bio major and running track. And it wasn't until I started falling asleep in lab that I was like, okay, I'm not going to the Olympics. My scores are terrible. My running times are pretty terrible. So I was like, let me go out and at least just focus on academics and try to at least kick it at the end of my college career. But no, I enjoyed my time down there. I just like to people watch. I hung out on the wall a whole lot. I wandered through the gates of Spelman on many of occasions. Matter of fact, Andrea and all her homies from the engineering department used to tutor us because we didn't know what we were doing, and the tutors in Morehouse weren't always there over in Dansby. So we'd go to Spelman and just kick it. But no, I honestly, I just like being around people. I didn't have to kick it. like that. Like I wasn't gonna hang out all night because I had shit to do. Also, when you're working in college and the money that you make for your part-time job, whether you're working in a study hall or your summer internship, or your RA job, and all that money winds up going towards, some of that stuff goes towards your tuition directly. You got a different set of priorities. And I didn't want to be a part of that. I'm not going to see you after Christmas crew. Because there were a lot of folks who came down to the AUC that we never saw again. Or you might see them back at home at the crib because you all are from the same space. But I didn't want to be a part of that. There were so many things at stake. There were so many people who were counting on me to make it. Not everybody knows, but I had foster brother growing up. And a lot of the work that I do with violence intervention and trauma and working with youth was inspired by him. He spent time, from foster care to juvie to prison. And he was in prison when I was at Morehouse. And so, looking at my opportunities and being in that space and realizing, I'm like, man, if he had access to some different things early on, at least consistently, that he would be in a very different space. I was like, I'll kick it with the homies and stuff like that. I'll go on dates. I was like, but I'm not gonna waste my time, partying, because there were a lot of other things that were at stake. And so some people knew about that. A lot of people never knew about that stuff. So I went in. I had a mission.
Well, hey, you've accomplished that mission, and I'm smiling because it's interesting to hear what you thought of yourself, right? Because I was on the outside looking in as your Spelman sister, and I got to tell y'all, Rob was cool. The cool New Yorker, had his own swag. And you're right, we could see him on any given day running around campus. And my Morehouse brother ran track with him. And so that's how we met. Yeah. So I am just so proud of you. And we just want to thank you for being here, as Ashley said, because we know that your time is extremely valuable. And I just want to ask you, when you go back to Morehouse, if we were to survey 5 of your closest friends, what would they nominate you most likely to be?
Oh man, that's a funny one. It all depends on, if you ask Jay Green and Troy, they'll probably clown me, and T. Clark, they'll definitely clown me on some things. But oh man, what they say? Probably most likely to wear camouflage or something stupid like that. I still wear my camouflage and boots and shorts periodically. I don't know. That's just a Brooklyn thing. I don't know what they would nominate me for. It'd probably be something, and they'd probably just come up with something inappropriate, because we still clown each other to this day. I probably talk to those guys, Jay Green, Che Ward, Troy Abernathy, T. Clark. I talk to those guys weekly. We're still a support system. Even 20 plus, well, I guess this was 21 years since we graduated. I can't believe it's been that long, but no, we're still our support system. But no, they'll clown me, and we clown each other, and it won't be one thing specifically. They may clown me one time because I was, I didn't know how to drive, and I completely was just driving on the other side of the line because the lane situation changed up, and I wasn't used to driving at nighttime. So they may clown me about that, amongst a number of other things. But no, it's all love.
Well, Rob, before we wrap up today, you're not just a CNN hero, you're a local hero, a national hero. And we just really, really appreciate your time, and anything that you can share with everybody who's watching today, just some words of wisdom during this time, this COVID-19 time, those who may be even interested in following in your footsteps to potentially be an HBCU grad that goes on to a successful career as a medical doctor. What are your words of wisdom during this time and for those individuals?
No, it's funny. I just talked to a young man who's from Brooklyn who may be going to Morehouse. I think we might even help secure a scholarship for him. And we were chatting about this the other day, literally like 2 days ago. And, I'd probably say, don't be afraid to experiment. There are a lot of things that, we come in with this set mindset, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do, but then a wrench gets thrown in the mix and your entire situation changes. And some people rise above the occasion and other people wind up crumbling. And the reason why people crumble is not because they don't mean well, but because they're afraid of outcomes. Being in the emergency department, developing organizations and projects locally and globally, you're always experimenting and you're always taking on something new. And, I know some of you, I know Andrea is an engineer, And, you're always, that whole concept of design thinking, figuring out what's the problem you're trying to fix, coming up with prototype, solutions and ideas and brainstorming, then implementing a prototype and then starting that process all over again. The same thing, was what went on when we were in school in the AUC, but the same thing probably even holds more now. Don't be so afraid that you can't try something new and test something out. In the case, my world, lives depend on your ability to think outside of the box and be innovative. This whole COVID-19, changed a lot of different things for people, from how we deliver healthcare to being overcrowded to running out of supplies. And sometimes you got to construct things just to make sure people can stay alive. And so, there's that concept of experimenting and trying and testing and retesting and not getting all, pissed off and effed up because things didn't go your way. Just start that shit all over again. I try to do that in every aspect of my life, whether personal relationships, work, even the sports. I train Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I've been training for over 5.5 years. I get my butt kicked by dudes who are double my size and half of my size, and sometimes women who are half my size. But every day on the mat is a new day that you get a chance to experiment and try and test the stuff out again. So why would our lives be any different?
Ooh, you have said a mouthful, and this interview has been so inspiring. And last but not least, Rob, tell us where we can follow you on social media and what can we do to support you?
So actually, that's a great question. So for social media on Facebook, it should be under Rob Gore. On the Instagram and on Twitter, Siriema22. That's Siriema 22. Some people always ask, like, what is Siriema? Siriema is a long-legged bird in Brazil that kills its prey by smashing their heads against the rocks. It's kind of violent, but that was my capoeira name that was given to me by a mestre many, many moons ago. So it just kind of stuck. It's kind of weird because I do violence intervention, so I'm not supposed to be violent, but hey, I spar and I realize you got to channel that anger. Also, I want to thank for the organization KAVI. Please check us out on social media and sign up to our website so you can get newsletters at kavibrooklyn.org. That's KAVI-BROOKLYN.org. We are not, KAVI is a nonprofit. We do accept donations. We are always fundraising. As a matter of fact, this Giving Tuesday, we're doing a fundraising campaign so people can spread the word and go out and support. We would welcome you, and especially having AUC ambassadors support the work. So I can email that stuff to you guys later on. But check us out at kavibrooklyn.org and just keep building and creating.
Thanks again, Ron, for being with us today. We really appreciate you. All of our hearts, our prayers go out with you during this time, and continue to do the work that you're doing today, sir. We appreciate you.
Oh, thank you guys. Be safe, okay?
All right.
Yeah.
All right.